to A Scrap Life, a podcast solely focused on the hustlers, grinders, operators, and business owners who live and breathe the scrap metal industry every day. We are the original recyclers. No suits required, just guts and hard work. Here is your host, Brett Ekart.
All right. I got another podcast coming your way. I found a guy to return on the podcast. So I must have did a too bad a job the first time we sat down and talked. But I got Jim Keefe here from Recycling Today, man. I'm kind of stoked. I'm stoked for a lot of reasons. A, because I like Jim, but B, because he's kind of letting me get involved in kind of a pet project of his that he's been kind of working on behind the scenes, and I'm excited for it. I mean, I think it hits, my demographic well of the grassroots people of our industry. So, Jim, no introduction needed, but how's it going, man? Introduce yourself. Give us a little bit of a quick background on you again. Let everybody know exactly what you do on the day-to-day.
Absolutely. Hey, Brett, it's great to be back with you. Thanks again for inviting me, and excited to be here again with you. So I'm publisher of Recycling Today magazine. As you can see, and behind me, we also publish Construction and Demolition Recycling magazine and Waste Today magazine. So we're kind of in all the sectors around waste and recycling. I've had a lot of good success here, fortunate to be with Recycling Today for over 30 years. So I've been in this recycling industry for a long time, started very much involved in the scrap side of our business, and spend a lot of time there today, and really happy to do it. So
I think you have more connections. I think you've got more connections than most people just by the nature of the beast of what you do in this industry. I'd wager your connections against a lot of people.
Well, I don't know about that, but I definitely have had the good fortune over the years to meet a lot of people in the industry, not only across the United States, but around the world, who are involved in recycling business. And listen, I think that's one of the greatest things about the industry is the people. It's getting to know the people, it's meeting people, it's, interacting with different people, learning about their businesses, learning about how they scrapped out a living and created a business. It's to me, this industry is full of great people and amazing stories of companies who have been built really just by hard work and ingenuity and perseverance. But the other cool element of it is you find so often, and I think this is true just like for a company like yours, they're able to create a business that provides for an awful lot of people. And that is a cool element to the industry that a lot of people don't even know what scrap is or scrap recycling is, but there's so many people who make their living in this industry. It's amazing.
Yeah, 100%. So let's cut to the chase. You approached me a while back and said, "Hey, Brett, I've kind of got this idea that I've been cooking on for a while, and I think it can be kind of a game changer." You kind of explained it to me, and I was like, "Yeah, man, I like it." And then I ran into you at Isery, and you were like, really, you had made some progress, some significant progress on it, and you hit me up, and I was like, "Dude, I'm in. I'm in," and I don't want to. I want you to tell. I don't want to be the one that kind of explains the idea.
You don't want to let the cat out of the bag.
I want it to be you, man. It's all you. I'm really just here to facilitate and help you get the word out, because this isn't a paid promotion. You're not giving me a dime to do this, but I'm excited about it. I'm excited for you, and I think it can really be a game changer. So explain to everybody what you got cooking.
So the concept I actually reached out to you is a new event that we're producing here at Recycling Today, and it's going to be called Scrap Expo. And Scrap Expo is not like any other kind of event that exists in the industry. The genesis of this idea really started, I would argue, probably at least a decade ago, maybe longer, when I had over the years, a lot of customers, a lot of our advertising customers came to us and said, Jimmy, could you help us figure out how we could organize like a road show so we could take a machine around and show a bunch of people in different places how it works, what it does, the benefit of it. And we could never really figure out a good way to make those logistics work. You know, the cost's hard and people don't necessarily, scrap dealers, I understand that they don't necessarily want competitors coming into their yard to not only to see their operations, but also to see a new piece of equipment. And so we could never really figure out a good way to make that work. So it was just kind of one of those things in the back of my mind. Well, we're part of a larger media company called GIE Media. And as GIE, we're involved in, 20 different industry sectors. And we've seen live demonstration events happen in different industries. We participate in a big one in the landscape industry, for example. And these events allow operators to come out and run equipment, actually jump up and compare brand X to brand Z to brand Y and figure out what works for me, what's the difference between these things. And so I started thinking there's a real need for this in the industry. You know, recycling today reaches over 16,000 businesses in this recycling industry. We're about 7,000 scrap dealers in that market reach. Most of those people don't belong to any trade association. They don't go to any meetings. They don't go to any kind of convention. And so to us, it looked like a wonderful opportunity to create a venue where people could come, network, learn about machinery, and learn about how to maintain their machinery. Because one of the things that we hear so often, again, from our advertising customers is folks get a piece of equipment in and they don't maintain it right, or they don't know how to maintain it right. And so all of a sudden they start having performance issues, doesn't work, it's not producing, no bales, no cut scrap, and boom, they have trouble. Interestingly for me, and I know you've seen this, Brett, over your years, is, you know, when I started in the industry 30 years ago, there was equipment, but not a volume of equipment that was purpose built for scrap as there is today. It's dramatic, the change. And the other thing that's happened is all the equipment's become more sophisticated, right? A lot more sophisticated. And so maintaining it so that you can maintain your production and your operations, really important. So Scrap Expo is an event that's really dedicated to the idea of live demonstration. We're going to have 10 acres of outdoor space where operators are going to be able to jump up and run a machine. If you want to see an Aljon log and see how it works, you're going to be able to do it. If you want to run a Centobogan material handler, you're going to be able to do it, along with a lot of other equipment that's going to be there on site. We're also going to have a indoor exhibit area. You'll be able to check out software, check out, we've got some people from commodity market pricing services. We've got some people who sell, you know, used equipment who are going to be participating in that, people who sell new equipment. We've got all kinds of vendors, scrap industry vendors who have committed to participating in Scrap Expo. So we're really excited about this element. And
so remember the question I asked you, not to cut you off, but remember the question I just asked you probably like 2 weeks ago when we were talking about this? We were kind of outlining like potential podcasts and like, how do we get this going? I said, so Jim, what do you guys know about trade shows? And what do you guys know about putting on one? Have you guys ever done it? And you're like, oh, Brett, like we put on, and you kind of went into it. And I was like, oh shit, you guys do know your fair share about how a trade show works, right? And you know what's going to make it valuable to somebody to actually go check it out.
We've been doing it a long time. As a company, we probably produce, depends upon the year. Last couple of years have been a little different, of course.
Yeah.
But we typically produce 25 to 35 events a year. In the recycling industry, we launched our what has become our paper and plastics recycling conference in the year 2000. That was the first year that we held that event. In that year, we held it in Atlanta, Georgia. And we've held it around the country, but primarily in Chicago and Atlanta. And for the last decade, we've been in Chicago every year.
Yeah.
And that's a super well attended event in that sector, paper and plastics recycling. And again, as a company, we've got a whole division of our business committed to event production. So we know how to do this. Now, is Scrap Expo different than what we've done in the past? It sure is.
Yeah.
But I also remember the first time I went to India to host a conference and the first time I went to China to host a conference. I remember walking in one day and talking to my conference manager and saying, do you think we could host an event in Dubai? How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
And she said, I have no idea how that will work, but we can figure it out. And we did. And we hosted several very successful events there. So we've learned over the years how to do this stuff by trial and error in some cases, but also because we have an idea what we're looking for and how to make it work. But also be honest with you, we're going to have a live operating facility in what we do at Scrap Expo. I am not a scrap dealer. I'm a publisher, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a safety guy. I'm a publisher. So what I've done is gone out and found some folks in the scrap industry. I went out and actually talked to an old friend of mine who recently retired from the industry. Some of you folks probably know him, Jim or Mac Aluso. And Mac's been working with me to help figure out some of the layouts, some of the how do we make sure it's safe. We've had to develop a whole site safety plan. We're going to have safety marshals on site to make sure that the event is safe for everybody and that people get a chance to get up and run the equipment. Right?
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Well, that's the differentiator, right? Like, I think,
Yeah.
Going back to what just a piece of what you said before, you've never put on a Scrap Expo. It's the first one. But what is cool about it, in my mind, is being a true scrap guy is, it's fun to go look at the equipment and it's all shined up and sitting there and you can walk around it and check it out. That's great. But there's just something about being able to sit in the seat, being able to watch something run, like really run, being able to listen to it and look at the functionality and operate it, that has a special place for the true like grassroots of our industry, right? Sometimes you go to these events and they're pretty corporate and it's a lot of buyers and sellers and they're like very, hey, it's very transactional versus say an event like this. What kind of got me intrigued was A, it was different and I like shit that's different. And B, yeah. it felt more of like a reach down into the roots of our industry. And that's why we're sitting here today. I mean, like I said, I'm not getting anything out of this other than helping somebody that I feel like cares about the industry and wants like to put on something different than the same old stuff you're going to see once a year.
So this event is really designed for the small, medium-sized scrap dealer who again doesn't go to any kind of event, but primarily is interested in their operations, right? They buy and sell scrap and want to keep their costs down in the yard, understand what their costs are. In fact, we're going to have a couple of sessions that are going to be just about understanding your costs. What does it cost you to process a ton of scrap, right?
Yeah.
And we also picked a place like Louisville, Kentucky. We're going to do the event September 13 and 14 in Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville. Well, we went to Louisville because people can drive there. Most of the country, I know you're in Boise, so it's a little bit far for you to drive.
It's a distance.
But most of the country can drive to Louisville within 6 to 8 hours, right? Something like 70% of the US population can drive to Louisville in 6 to 8 hours. And so it's very accessible for the small to medium-sized dealer. It's also in a city that's a great city. Louisville's a wonderful destination, but it's not a top tier city. So that means it's a little bit more affordable for smaller companies, right? They could send more people. We're keeping the price point for registration quite reasonable so that people can afford to bring their yard manager, bring their operations manager, bring your crane operator, bring your baler operator, so that they can not only look at new equipment, but also attend some of the technical sessions on how do I maintain my baler? How do I maintain my shear? How do I maintain my material handler? That kind of thing. So we're trying to remain really focused on that small to medium size. Listen, we're going to have some of the big companies there. I know that. I've been approached by numerous of them who intend to send a bunch of their operations people. That's fantastic. But it's really designed for these small to medium size, plus the auto dismantler. I mean, with recycling today, we reach about 1,600 auto dismantlers across the country. And a lot of those dismantlers have involvement in the scrap business. They run some scrap equipment. They're also in the used parts business, but they also will benefit from an event like this. We're going to have one of our
out of curiosity on that front, are you going to have like a wet car? Are you going to have like a drain racks for like the auto dismantlers? And the reason I ask this is because I have both, right? I have auto salvage and scrap, but all of our yards buy wet cars. I mean, it's just part of the process. So technically we are somewhat in the auto business, even on the yards that aren't selling parts. Is that going to be an option for your auto dismantlers? Are they going to have watch the process of a wet car get drained or anything like that?
They are. We've got a couple of exhibitors committed who are going to have the depollution systems. We've got one who's got a whole demo plan. He's going to show how you drain all the fluids, how you harvest a cat, how you harvest wire harnesses, how you drop a motor and crack the motor block. I mean, the whole thing. It's going to be like a live working area where people are going to be able to see how all this machinery works, what's available to them. And frankly, in some cases, again, a lot of this machinery is pretty advanced. Makes it pretty easy to do a lot of these things that used to take lots of man hours, and lots of people still do it that way. So you can see if you want to harvest cats when your cars come in, this is a great way you can do it. So yeah, we're excited about it.
So last year through our converter business, we put together a booth and display at the SEMA show, which is in Vegas. Specialty like aftermarkets. I mean, and it's the second biggest show in Vegas every year, next to the electronics one, the CES.
Okay.
It was mind-boggling how big it was. But the coolest thing I liked about it is when you went in there, they had paint booths, they had guys grinding, they had Plaz tables, cutting parts. Wow. They had all the stuff, but it wasn't just a picture of it or a display model. It was like, because they do it at the convention center, and it's all these guys selling parts, aftermarket, like wheel polishers, basically, if you damage your wheel, there's a machine that will scrape the outside layer off and basically turn it dang near into a new looking wheel. And they were running everything, right? Which you just don't get to see that very often if you go to some of these trade shows. And so to me, I was like, oh, you can really do this at a trade show? And they're like, well, yeah, I mean, if it's set up right and it's big enough. So that was kind of like my flashback moment when you told me about this. I was like, oh, this is going to be like the scrap SEMA. Like you're going to have real equipment working.
We're going to literally have like a shear row where you're going to be able to jump up and run a LeBounty, run a Genesis, run a shear core, all like right next to one another, and check them out.
Yeah.
See, each one of them are great machines, but they have their own benefits. And so listen, as an operator, you have a chance to do that. Well, how else could you do that? Particularly if you're an owner operator, right? So you're in your yard every day running operations. How do you can't run around the country looking at different equipment very easily, right? Here you're able to come one spot, check it all out.
No, and that was the thing. Obviously the grassroots part is what got me probably the most excited, just because that's kind of that's kind of the world I live in. I'm not too corporate. It's not too big. I get a good feeling when I'm around guys that are similar in size and as far as number of yards and smaller, and just how they run and how their fingers are in, all facets of the business. And I feel like this event is kind of born and bred for that type of person.
It absolutely is. I mean, that's the thing is we tried to create an event here that would help that small dealer become better, faster, stronger. Remember the $6 million man?
Yeah.
Better, faster, stronger.
Uh-huh.
So that's the idea is, get access to information. Check out the equipment. I met with some friends of mine who were auto dismantlers who talked about there used to be an event in that space that was a live demo event. And some of those folks, they said, man, I learned about equipment that made me so much money by going to that. I would have never known it existed and I would have never bought it, even if I'd have seen it, because I wouldn't have believed it worked. But when I got to touch it, feel it, and use it, I said, that's going to work in our yard. And we bought it. So we really tried to build the event organically like that. Now, listen, we're going to have some good networking opportunities as well. We're going to shut down at the end of day one, the live exhibits, lock down, tag out everything, and let people share some drinks together for a little while. So we'll have a good opening night reception. We're going to have, we're even going to have a couple commodity sessions so people can hear a little bit about what's going on in the commodity markets. But, again, our focus is very much on machinery and operations.
Nice. So give me some dates. What are the dates of the show?
So we're going to be September 13 and 14, 2022 in Louisville, Kentucky. We're going to go run the first day, start at 10 a.m. and go to 5. Next day, we'll run from 9 a.m. until 4. And so again, folks who drive in can get home, probably be back in their yard on Thursday morning. If you're flying in, we're right next to the Louisville airport. Literally, we are across the street from the Louisville airport at the facility we're going to be in. You can walk from the hotel to the expo center, and the indoor and outdoor exhibits are right next to each other. So you can just go between them. Simple.
Nice. And if, for those of you that have never been to Louisville, I mean, I've been there, I think 2 times now. It is a cool city. I do like the fact that it's, I like that you put it in Louisville, not because it's definitely not easy for me to get to. But I like the fact that it more, yeah, well, that's life. But I like the fact that it caters to a little bit more affordability, and which goes back to, like, the grassroots piece of it is, if you got to fly in there or drive in there, but you're not just getting gouged out the neck for the hotel or whatever, and you can go find an affordable place to eat dinner or lunch or whatever, then there's something to be said for that. Because some of these places you go, whether it's in California or you go to Vegas or whatever, and you want to go have a meal, you better pack it. You better pack your checkbook.
That's right.
So,
we chose Louisville because of its location and because it's an affordable city. But it's a cool city. It is a cool
city. Yeah,
it's the home of the Louisville Slugger, right? The Louisville Slugger baseball bat. It's got the urban bourbon trail right downtown. You can go on a bourbon trail tour in Kentucky real easily from Louisville. It's a great city. It's got a lot to offer, and it's a neat place to visit.
Why September? Why'd you choose those dates? Is there
we really wanted to be away from, in the spring there's a lot of big events in the industry. And so we wanted to stay away from those spring events and give it a break for people. But we also know, again, we're tailored to the small to medium sized yards out there. We don't want to be in the middle of the summer when people are trying to maybe sneak in a family vacation. Kids are off school. So we want to do when the kids are back to school and when we're not really competing with lots of other large national events.
Gotcha.
That was our focus.
That makes sense. Well, I'm stoked, man. I'm excited. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to get out there, and I'm gonna come out, bring a couple of our guys, and we're gonna do some fun marketing stuff. We're gonna do some. I'm an equipment junkie.
You are an equipment junkie.
I do have an equipment purchasing problem sometimes, like people like to say. But I understand the value of what, equipment can do for your business. I understand that component of it, thanks to my dad. And so I'll be out there just to check out the equipment and to meet and talk to people. And we're gonna do some podcasting out there. So we're stoked.
Yeah. We're looking forward to. We're gonna have you up on our center stage doing a podcast. And also we're gonna have a podcast booth set up so you can do some other podcasts while you're there over the couple of days.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good time, man.
The reception has been incredible. We have had so many inquiries. It's really unbelievable. People are very excited. And one of the things that did catch me by surprise was the interest of some of the largest companies in the industry, which I didn't fully expect. That's not what we built the event around. But there's been a lot of interest from those folks, and that's been neat. But overall, the reception from the industry has been truly tremendous. I've been humbled by the amount of interest that we've had in Scrap Expo. We're really looking forward to getting everyone together in September in Louisville.
Networking wins, man. Networking wins.
Sure does.
Your ability to talk to other operators, your ability to talk to other people. You know, I just posted a video on LinkedIn yesterday of our non-ferrous area. We had installed a new Sierra baler, and one of the ideas on how to kind of wrap the pit for the conveyor, I stole from Olga and Fume guys. I was down their yard looking at, and I was like, hey, how do you guys got that set up? I got a baler coming in a couple months, and I wanted to kind of see it set up. And just because I had made a networking connection with them, and I was able to come look at their yard, see how they set something up, it enabled me to design my pit and, you know, my railing and everything as just a copycat, right? Like I didn't need to reinvent the wheel, but that's why I feel like networking, these events, some other projects we got coming are huge. Is, you know, I think steel sharpens steel, and that's I think that's the biggest thing with an event like this is if you get 2 shears working side by side, those companies will probably make each other better too. They'll sharpen their sales pitch, they'll sharpen how they do stuff, and the guys that are there checking it out and gals that are looking at this equipment, like they're gonna have the ability to network. And I mean that's what makes our industry stronger, and I think that's how we all win in the long run. So I'm stoked.
It's absolutely true. You know, networking is such an important part of the industry. You don't go to college to learn scrap.
No,
no. You know, you got to learn scrap by learning scrap. And so, you know, Scrap Expo is I say it's an event it's a pro scrap event. It's really designed specifically for the scrap dealer, right?
I love it.
And we're looking forward to it.
All right, man. So if people want to go, if they want to do some more research into it, where do they go?
Check out the website, scrapexpo.net.
Okay.
Scrapexpo.net.
Can they register right there, right on the website?
You can register right on the website. You can get information about the whole programs on the website, information on the hotels that we've got set up, the room blocks we've got available is all right there on the website. So I just encourage everyone to visit scrapexpo.net, and they can capture all the information they need.
Love it. All right, Jim. Appreciate it, man. I'm
Brett, great to be with you again, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I support the people that support doing what I do every day. So this is an easy one for me.
Thanks a million, man. We'll be in touch.
All right, man. Yep.
Take care.
Yep. Take care.
We got it, huh?
We're good to go. Let me make sure before you here we go. I always lose that button.